scroll up and catch up. You got to catch up.
Come on, let's go. What's the next topic?
All right, so let's talk about Bryce. And Bryce, there's a lot of different directions we can go, but I think the best way to probably think about it is the looming. Obviously, his fifth-year option was, I guess, elected or whatever the proper term is, but you have to make that decision kind of a year sooner now with this new CBA. And so Bryce Young will at least be here for this season and the following season, depending on whatever they do. We know teams can get a little weird before that fifth-year option season. See Sam Darnold getting traded to Carolina. However, everybody feels like this is a make or break season for Bryce. Career numbers in most categories last year, but they're still below most of league average. And most people will say they're just not up to par. Obviously, the Panthers they won the division and made the playoffs for the first time since probably since I guess 2017, 2018 was that season. When I started first making content, it's been a long 7-8 years or whatever it's been. But the team has kind of has shown strides in what they've done with Bryce Young since that horrible rookie year. So I guess I'll pose a question to you guys. What is the kind of expectation for Bryce to be able to get that type of contract? Because I know, Joe, I read your poll, and a lot of people said they were comfortable with paying Bryce top 15 money if he performed up to par. And I think you put those numbers in there. There's a big kind of gap between that 14 and 15 slot where you're talking about Sam Darnold making 33 and Daniel Jones making 44. And so I guess what are your thoughts about what they need to see from Bryce Young to be able to put him, one, with long-term money, but with the Panthers as well, for them to feel comfortable with that?
I thought that Tillis said it well the couple times we've got Brant Tillis, the couple times we've talked to him about this. You know, it was last summer is when he famously said that they viewed Bryce as an ascending player and that things would work out. Very non-committal, to be sure. And then when we got him this offseason, he referred to that comment. He said, so I'm feeling pretty good about my prognosticating because I called him ascending player. And Bryce took another step this year. He did. I think, listen, that, Dan Morgan was around when they drafted Bryce Young. He was a big part of that decision. It wasn't just Scott Fitter. So he would love for this to work out. I mean, it's got, he's got his handprints all over it too. And I think the hope is that he takes another step. And that, I mean, they certainly like him as a leader, as a person, as a quarterback too. They just, they wanted to see more consistency. He showed that last year. Is he a top 10 guy? He hasn't been yet. Could he be a top 15 guy? And I mean, not necessarily money-wise, just as we talk about, can he get in that upper half of the league? Like last among quarterbacks. Last year, I think he was, like sort of that around that 22 mark for yards, for passer rating, which is better than he had been. So I don't know. I know it's a kind of a long-winded way to say it, but I do think they would like him to be the guy, but they're not there yet. Is sort of the way my sense is.
Yeah, I think, like you said, consistency is probably the biggest thing. Sheena, I follow both of y'all pretty closely. I saw you put out it might have been a couple of days ago. Some people were talking about Bryce, and you were talking about his future, and you were just talking about kind of what they've been through and like some of the past quarterbacks. And kind of, I'm putting kind of words in your mouth a little bit, paraphrasing, but you've been on that carousel before, and sometimes it may be cheaper to just kind of see it through. And the grass, I like to say, the grass is greener where you water it. And if Bryce shows that progress, it may be better to just kind of go forward with him. So what are your thoughts about the long-term prospects of Bryce in Carolina and maybe what he needs to do to kind of assure obviously the front office, who's the most important, and then obviously fans, of course, that he is that guy?
I think you look no further than the fact that 2 years ago, this team was 2-15, and they should have really been 0-17. They didn't even lead those two games that they won. They were on walk-off field goals. Honestly, so it's not like Dave Canales or Dan Morgan walked into a good situation. This was not an attractive job. People didn't know how involved David Tepper was going to be. There's just so many more factors outside of what you see on the football field. And to me, I feel like when you have a team that's 2 years removed from 2-15 and they win a division, 8 and 9, it doesn't matter. The Bucks won the division with a losing record too, and no one talks about that.
Mhm.
But anyway, no one talks about that because it was Tom Brady. But I say all this to say Bryce has continued to take steps, and to build on that, you don't blow it up. You know, there is going to take some patience. And I know that that is a P word that Panthers fans really hate because they have been exuding patience. But we've seen what happens when they make that jump thinking that, okay, well, we're a quarterback away. Let's change this. Let's change that. And then you get thrown into this carousel. Might I remind you of 2021? I'm sorry, 2022. No, 21. When the Panthers were paying Teddy Bridgewater, who was Cam Newton's replacement. But then they shipped him off to Denver, and they still were paying him the next season, along with paying Sam Darnold, who was Cam's replacement. Then they had to go back by November, and they were paying Cam Newton too. They were paying all three of those quarterbacks in one season. And so you don't go and blow it up without a clear-cut plan for the future. And I don't think that there's anybody else out there. And with the draft, it's a lottery. It's a lottery. You know, Josh Rosen was a first-round quarterback. Where is Rosen? So I say all that to say, you know, stop blowing everything up and just continue to build on top of that. And again, Bryce has what people like for Bryce to be more consistent. Absolutely. Why wouldn't you want him to be? But I think that he's continued to take steps, and he's continued to, for lack of better words, one of my friends and colleagues said about Bryce when he was in college, he was in the fire and he continued to come out with cold water. So there are a lot of situations and a lot of those games and late game drives that the Panthers would have lost those games. I mean, point blank period. We saw him hair on fire against the Eagles. They were a fingertip pass away from beating, you know, the eventual Super Bowl champion. So I don't think that you take and blow that up. And I think that a lot of Bryce's critics are just purveyors of popular rhetoric. It is popular to talk about Bryce Young's size. It is popular to say that he doesn't have the physical traits. That's just a popular and lazy analysis when you watch these games and you see that for the first time in a couple of years, the Panthers are competitive in most of those games that they played last season, which is a huge step forward for them where they were when Bryce first put on a jersey.
So I guess with that,
this Bryce's pass catchers, how many of them are still in the league from his rookie season?
Well, David Moore's still around.
David Moore is just grandfather time. He don't count.
DJ Chark's retired. Hayden Hurst is retired, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's tough.
Retired.
Adam Thielen, you mentioned him, right?
Yeah.
And those that aren't retired have caught. They probably have less than 5 receptions since they left the Panthers. So that tells you they were in dire straits.
Yeah. Terrace, yeah.
They were in dire straits. So to judge someone, I don't even feel like his rookie season should count. I'm sorry.
I've pretty much deleted 2023 from my memory bank as a fan.
Delete it. So when you say that, like, I'm again, you know, most of Bryce's critics are people that just can't get past the fact that he's 5'10".
Yeah, I think the consistency, man, you kind of have to delete the stinkers. We've seen the highs like the Rams game. We've seen the Falcons game. Say what people want about the Falcons. I think at that point they were like one of the top pressuring teams in the league just because of sacks and stuff.
One of the top defensive,
yeah, the way he was able to operate there with the bum ankle. I mean, it was a legacy game in my eyes because I was at the game. You see him limping off the field. He refuses the cart. He comes back in the game. The O-line is beating and battered, which is partially why he got his foot stepped on because they had Chandler Zavala in the game. And he comes out, puts the team on his back. And the team actually helps him out as well. Like, I think the difference there was actually you saw Yak. You saw Tommy Tremble with the monster yards after catch play. You saw T-Mac getting Yak. Xavier Legette had a couple plays where he was able to get yards after catch. Jalen Coker got involved. So that was, I think, the crux of what you want Bryce Young to be, that point guard, getting the ball to everybody they want to, using your legs when necessary, and getting things there. So we've seen the ideal scenario. He just has to delete those stinkers. We can't have 50-yard passing games like he had against Seattle. And all credit due to them for being the Super Bowl champs. But this is the modern NFL. 50 yards is kind of like, okay. Yeah. And so that's just my thing.